Good morning. Looks like notifications are going out. Cool. I just heard one of my phones go off. Good morning. I know I have been live for most of the week. I apologize. Life sometimes just catches up with you. And but we'll get through it. Dealing with some stuff here at home, and it's it's a blessing. So um that I'm here. So it feels like I have purpose. That was always one of the toughest aspects of truck driving for me is the colossal waste of time that other people just handed you. Hey, you want to sit at this dock for 8 hours for one pallet? We don't care about you. You got a bed, you got food, you got a TV, you got video games. You can sit in there. Your time isn't important. That was always one of the most frustrating aspects. So that's why I became an owner operator. Is one of the many reasons is to try to minimize that as much as possible, but it still happens. Anyways, but it looks like I might be in the truck here fairly soon. I've got a driver going on vacation, and everybody else is kind of we're down to a couple of guys, um, so we're gonna deal with that. But anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you. Good morning. Hope all is well with you. Hopefully you weren't in the South and dealt with all that tornadic weather. I was watching Ryan Holiall, and it was one of his chasers had a live feed, and they watched a tornado form right there in front. Weather Nation was using it earlier, and it's pretty amazing to see a formation of a tornado. And that's about the only time I've ever seen a tornado. Out driving. I was in Indiana, and I was seeing one just starting to form as I was driving by. There was a couple of people in the field looking at it. It was a small one, but it was just doing the funnel cloud coming down. So it was pretty neat. I did a video on that. Look up Snorelord tornado, and you'll find that video. It was back in my Schneider days. So, yeah. So a lot of things going on here at home. Spot market is is I'm not going to say the word struggling, but it is. If you don't have your game on, it is a struggle right now. But there is still money to be made. I've got proof, and I know several people that are still doing well. But and we're going to go over that. That's part of the message that I was going to go over today. There's a lot of I want to think of if you're a recording artist, and I know this for my own self. The very first time I recorded in a real studio, I was amazed of myself. I was amazed of how sloppy I was on my guitar playing. And I was amazed how my voice really sounded. And I hated it. Because a studio will bring out your weaknesses. Like it'll put it under a microscope. And so next thing you know, that ego that made you think that you're a good guitar player and you're a good vocalist made you go, Guess what, ego? Smash, smash, smash. And then it's up to the engineer, doing the recording to do it, to do their magic. If you listen to Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, listen to the album, and then listen to a live concert they did for MTV back in the day. It's like one of their first concerts, like not as a band, but televised, and you're going to be like, wow, that engineer did a lot. Same thing with Nirvana. Nevermind. That's a very polished piece of recording history. But then when you listen to them live, you're like, what the hell? And so all this to make the point that when you have a low volume, lower rate market, it's going to accent the weaknesses in your business. Things that are hard will become harder. Things that were easy will now become hard. And that's literally the reality of the situation that we're in. And so now a lot of people say, well, rates have normalized, which is true, but the costs are way up. So what's the number one thing that you should be doing? Getting the cost down as low as humanly possible. That's how you survive lean times. If you can't make it to the grocery store and you've only got a certain amount of food, right? You have to ration, correct? Well, if you're only making a certain amount of money, you have to ration, right? So it's literally that simple. The difficult part is the mindset to recognize that and to accept that and to deal with that. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs, shall we? Old school, new school, waiting to get unloaded, then go home. Sterling, good morning. Salt Lake City. I don't trust Wyoming. Headed over 70. That's probably a good idea. Wheelburner, good morning. Good to see you. What's up? New sub, Trucking with MC. Thank you. Thank you for the sub. I hope you find something you like. Make sure you go through the old videos, go through the old playlists, and see if there's something you like. I appreciate it. Desert Okie Pam, good morning. All good, Sterling. Ryan, what's up? Grafton. Pam, remind me. I have a question for you later. Ryan, what's up? Grafton, how's it going? Sterling had to sleep a few hours, rolling shortly. Heading to Florida. Florida. David Edwards, good morning. Wyoming ruined my super trucker plans. Yep, it always does. Morning from Knoxville, CB, good to see you. Love the intro. Thank you, Wheelburner. That's the song Weekend Embrace. If you go to Apnea 1 on Bandcamp, you can that song is there. It's one of Apnea's slower songs. So I was getting a little worried about you. Been praying for you. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Hopefully I'll be rolling by this afternoon or at least Monday. Morning from Brookville, Pennsylvania. Denny's. Nice. Good morning. My name is Nobody. So what did you do to clean up the guitar playing? Pretty much playing without distortion. I was relying heavily on distortion and started working with the metronome. I'm not much of a lead player. I mean, I do solos, but I'm not like one of these arpeggio sweep finger tapping, whammy bar diving types. They're more melodic. They're more of a melody than, look what I can do. I wasn't that, I try not to do a whole lot of those. The majority of my music band career, I had a second guitar player that was their position, and it wasn't until towards the end that I really had to kind of get it figured out myself. I had some really great teachers, and but yeah, just playing clean. I just bought this acoustic guitar, and for a project that's coming up, and I'm like, man, it's tough. But I mean, that's the thing about being able to. You don't have to kill your ego, but at least knock it in the face and tell it to sit in the corner for a minute while you figure things out. That's healthy, and that's what needed to be done. So, good morning, fella. Your lives were missed by me the last few days. You really screwed up YouTube schedule. Sorry, Stuart. Yeah, well, I won't get into details, but I knew that one day I wouldn't be able to because of a situation I knew that was happening around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then I had to concentrate on that. And then another time, it was well, I had to find a load. It took me 3 days to find a specific load for a specific driver out of a specific area. It took me 3 days to find that. And it wasn't about the rate. It was literally about what do you have that goes to this spot, and sorting through the mess that created. So, customers come first over this YouTube, because dispatch, I don't know, here's a little secret. Dispatch makes me more money than YouTube. so it's it's important to service my customers. And then yesterday I just wasn't feeling good. I was sneezing a lot. I'm dealing with allergies, so that was yesterday. So I figured, why go live Thursday when I could just go live Friday if I'm feeling better. I almost didn't go live today, but I figured, well, I'll make an appearance. But I appreciate you tuning in the morning, and I'm sorry I screwed up your schedule. Yeah, I made it to Rockwall like 10 minutes before the line of storms hit. Oh man, yeah, they were showing turned over trucks there in Terrell. So I'm glad you figured it out. Sean, what's up? Checking in from Topeka, way out of my loop, dead over here. Yeah, there's that can uh, pet food place that I used to drop and hook in there for Snyder, and that usually went to Dallas. And then out of Dallas, I grabbed Durant and then brought it back home. That was usually my trek. If you go to Target there in Topeka, then I hope that it's drop and hook, and if not, you're getting a full break there. Schmitty, what's up? Good morning from sunny central Pennsylvania. It has been raining for the last 12 hours here in Missouri, Springfield. So, good morning, T-Bone. Marty, I always think live sounds better than recording studio. It depends on the band. I mean, there are some groups like Wardruna. Look them up. They're a Viking, Nordic band, and their lives to their recordings are you can't almost even tell. So, but it just depends on the band. I like take Metallica for example. Despite the lack of bass, and Justice for All is one of my favorite recordings because of they literally layered the guitar 10 times. And I'm a guy that loves, I mean, look at Crowbar. They layer their guitars. In the last Apnea recording, there's literally 4 of me playing the rhythms. And I love that. So sometimes live, especially if they're a one guitar band, but they record their albums like a 2 guitar band, sometimes there's a little bit missing. The only band that pulled that off really well was Pantera. I saw Pantera back in the day, and it was during the Far Beyond Driven album, and they were hitting the peak of their popularity, and you could tell there was probably some chemicals going on because they were sloppy as hell. But Dimebag had this great sound, and when he did a lead, you could barely tell. Nowadays, we went and saw Slipknot a while ago, and it's too much bass, too much low end frequencies, that it's like no one knows how to run sound anymore. And the local venues are making the same mistake. I'm like, what are you doing? And the way that we in Apnea uh, rose above that was that our drummer had click pads, metal tabs with wood beaters on his bass drum. So when he kicked into double bass, it didn't overwhelm me with the low end where you can hear what he was doing. And then I know how to get the frequencies right in the guitar so we can cut through that low end mud. And so therefore we always had a consistent sound regardless of whatever venue we were playing. Consistency. So agreed, says Wheel Burner. Good morning, heading to Kansas City, $2 a mile. Well, you should be able to get that out if you're going back east. What's up, Don? Hope all is well. Good morning, Don. Hopefully you found your customer in the right state today. Is there a story there? I get it. Business comes first. Yep. David Riverman, good morning to you, sir. On 90 South Dakota going west, pretty nice up there, so far up there, up here. God, I can't read. I apologize. Look at Will Brenner. Look at this mug. Yeah, it's the Wicker Man. It's off of Brave New World. I found this at a truck stop, the Cuba truck stop before the TA ruined it. It was sitting in there. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that. Should have bought two. The only band I've ever heard that was consistent, whether it was live or recorded, was the Eagles. They really had their sound figured out well. And that's the thing. So a band like that's going to hire their own sound man, and they've got probably different layers going on, and that's key. Like a band like Genesis, take them. They got so many things going on that they bring in extra touring musicians, and so you have to have a good sound man when you've got like 8 or 9 pieces to deal with. And there are some bands like Testament, they would actually bring their own PA with them, like, because they didn't want to take any chances with whatever venue they were playing to have a decent sound system. And they were one of the loudest bands I've ever heard. The other loudest band was a band called Goat Whore, an underground band. We opened up for them, which features one of the guitar players that was in Crowbar at one point. And they were literally the loudest band I've ever heard live. Greetings from Seattle. Good deal, man. I'm glad you made it. Excellent. Greg, good to see you. I sure did, Will Burner. Glad to hear it, bro. So it's yeah, so I mean, I enjoy playing live. I kind of miss it. We do have a group per se, but we haven't like actually all played in the same room for years. And the drummer and I have jammed. He's got another project that he works on. And at some point, I hope to play out again, but we'll see. That's part of what the acoustic is for. So I don't think I've heard Lost Society MC. I don't think I have. So, anyways, let's do some spot market stuff. Let's take a look at hot market maps. This is the 123 low board. 48065 is my code. If you want to try it out for yourself, just don't take my word for it. Figure it out yourself. If you like it, cool. Use my code. If you don't like it, let them know why you don't like them. They're very. If you guys have any here, I'm going to say this. Okay, if you have any complaints of the 123 low board, air them to me, and I will be literally hanging out with them at Matt's all weekend, and I will address your concerns. There. So here's your chance to talk directly to the actual people that. Now, they didn't show up last year at Matt's because of the whole Canadian vid thing, travel restrictions, but they are supposedly showing up this year. I follow them and Thunder Funding. They're partners, and so they'll be hanging out. We'll all be hanging out. I reserved my car yesterday. No, I'm not bringing my truck. It's pointless to bring the truck if I'm just going to stay in a hotel. But there should be a point where I can go hang out in the parking lot. So, if you guys are all having a party, let me know, and I'll see if I can make it. They're from Finland, but they rock. Cool. I'll check them out. All right, so here's the van. As you can see, there's yellow means it's an okay market. Green means there's decent volumes, and then red means good luck. And I'll give you an example. So here's Montana. there's only that many loads, 9 loads outbound. And so as you can see, Superior, Montana to Rexburg, Idaho, that's all for Monday. And then they've got that for Tuesday, 2 for Tuesday, 2 for Wednesday. And then you have another Dart. Shannon, if you're watching, Dart has a load from Great Falls, Montana to Paris, California, $2,000. Ascend has a load, and Venture has a load. Billings to Spokane. So if you go into Montana, you're going to want to find your load out before you book that load in, or have a plan on a strategic plan of where you're going to deadhead to get out of there. So yesterday, I caught a little bits of pieces of Jeffrey Likes video last night, and he was talking about how deadhead can be your friend, and so he was explaining it, and there's a strategy to that depending on where you're going. And so the strategy is like, here's the strategy for Denver. My strategy for Denver is, if you go into Denver, your rate better partially cover the load, the miles coming out of there if you got a deadhead. So one of the strategies that I'll do, let's say I deliver Monday morning, I will look for Tuesday morning out of Kansas City. Look for the right rate, and then deadhead there. But I won't do my deadhead until I book that load. Now, a blind deadhead, if you're guaranteed that you're going to get something out of Kansas City, then you can do a blind deadhead, and it's a little bit easier for blind deadheads. Like Miami, obviously, blind deadhead's going to go north, and so you just look at the quarters. It's 75 or 95 that's going to give you the money. So most of the time, you're looking at South Georgia, Savannah area, Jacksonville, Florida area, and so that could be strategic. If I go to Dallas, and here's another example. So one time I took a load to Sanger, Texas, which isn't quite Dallas. It's still about 60 miles away. Delivered on a Sunday morning, knowing that I probably wouldn't find anything till Monday. So I immediately started I looked at Sunday out of Dallas, and I looked at Monday with the 300-mile radius. And so what I ended up doing was I saw loads coming out of Dallas, but then there was a load coming out of Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. And I knew that shipper, I knew that load, and it was a shorty going up to Fulton, Missouri. Meanwhile, the stuff coming out of Dallas going up to Fulton paid the same exact amount, but I was going to deadhead 60 miles south, then pick it up, deal with Dallas's crap, and then head north. Whereas if I just deadhead the large amount of miles from Sanger to Fort Gibson, the rate per all mile was exactly the same. And so because the Oklahoma load paid more per mile, and half my miles were empty. So that's a strategic deadhead. That's what you have to look at. That's a good question. Matt's starts on the 30th of March, and it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then, so there's Matt. So, Richard, if you're watching, so, but that's a strategic deadhead. So, now, I know people that were in Dallas, they couldn't find anything they wanted, so they just literally just deadheaded to Memphis, thinking that market was going to be better. Well, once they got to Memphis, the Dallas market woke up, and then they were struggling to get out of Memphis. So when you're doing blind deadheads like that without a plan, it's a little bit more challenging. And so right now, the market, in order to get the best rate per mile, you're having to go into areas that don't have the best amount of freight or the best paying amount of freight. And let it be known that if you take a load from Denver to, say, Dallas, you're going to make more per mile than, say, Dallas to Wisconsin, because Wisconsin's a better market. One of the strategies that, like, the best paying loads out of Dallas usually go up to Colorado or Phoenix. But then the best paying loads out of Phoenix go up to either Salt Lake or Denver. And so at one point in the week, you're going to come out of a bad area in order to make your money. And so it's consistency, it's having a plan, it's blind deadhead only in extreme circumstances. The other thing is, let's say that, like, I had to get a truck out of Seattle going back to Wisconsin. And let's say I couldn't find anything. So what I would do is I would look at, okay, what's coming out of Idaho? What's coming out of all the places that are on the way to Wisconsin? So if he's going to drive back empty, at least maybe half the trip can be paid for. Let's say you pick up something in South Dakota and that goes into Wisconsin. So at least you get that, right? So that's the other thing. If you're going to do, like, if you're just trying to get home, let's say you're in Atlanta and you need to get up to Wisconsin. Well, maybe there's nothing coming out of Atlanta, but look at, I don't know, Indianapolis. Look at Nashville. Look at Knoxville. Look at the states that are on the way to Wisconsin. Check those markets. And if there's something in there, boom, it's on the way. Now you're not deadheading empty 1,000 miles to get up there. And at the end of the day, it at least pays for fuel and protects the profit from the last load. So that's a way to look at it. These are the things that you have to figure out. And it's usually trial and error. And because I dispatch, at one point I had 7 trucks on my roster. I've had to learn strategies from different, from the Northeast, from the Southeast, from the Northwest, all corners, all 4 corners. And what I'm finding now is you kind of got to go out of your comfort zone. You gotta keep moving. Don't focus on the rate per mile. Focus on the rate per day and the overall revenue. You don't need to be running for 90 cents a mile for a decent daily rate, but at the same time, if your costs are, $2 a mile and you're seeing everything at $1.90, you could still take it. Just let the profit from the next load kind of help out. Or if, let's say, you're not getting profit this month, at least you get something. And that's something that was a hard lesson I had to learn as well. I've been the guy that sits there, I ain't moving my truck for 2 days, and for less than X amount per mile. It's easier to have that mindset when you're home too, because you're not sitting empty at a truck stop looking at a load board. You're just at home. My wife's sitting there. I got my cup of coffee. Got a cat on my lap, and and life is good. It's tough to go, man. I ain't moving my truck for that. But then when you're empty at a truck stop, it's a lot easier to go, you know what, I need to get moving. And that's the point of this market that we're in. Is just keep swimming and get your costs down. Get your costs down. If the biggest difference between now and the volume drop in early 2020 is the cost, then that means that's the number one thing that you need to focus on. Get rid of them streaming platforms. Get rid of the excess bills. And maybe buying that luxury item last year wasn't a good idea. And I've warned people about that as well. So it's just because, look at any graph from any history of time about the spot market, and you will see, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And usually those cycles last about a year and a half. And then for another year, it goes up gradually. And then another year, it goes down gradually. And then a sharp, and then sharp. So And I could show you all kinds of examples of those graphs. And that's just how the spot market is. That is the nature of this beast. And so if you want to insulate yourself a little bit from that, find some contract freight, find a broker that's got dedicated contract freight, and just run for them. You're still making your money. You're still in the spot market, per se, but you're not fighting the low boards. You're not fighting these brokers that are either not answering their phone, not answering their email, or putting you on hold for 20 minutes because they're not desperate to find you unless you have something to offer, like such as a team, or you're in an area where there's, more loads than trucks. Make yourself known, make yourself stand out from the competition. CDN Freight Broker, good to see you. Everybody check out CDN Freight Broker's channel. Reefer 77, what's up? Pigtail. What might be a rate per day at 300 to 350 miles? You can get, depending on the area, anywhere from 850 to 1100, depending on in dry van, depending on where you're at on a rate per day. I can still get that. Coming out of Florida, I like the shorty game until I hit a good area. Example: Orlando to Jacksonville, and then Jacksonville to Savannah, and then Savannah to Atlanta. Yes, that's another strategy. If you can do the short hops and then make your way where you want to be, then you're good. Versus like, okay, I'm giving up and I'm just going to take this load from Miami all the way to, Minneapolis, for $1 a mile. That's taking a lot of time off your clock doing that. All right, I'm back. Due to what I've learned since getting my authority, I'm more profitable this year than I was last year. There you go. And that's the thing. You got to have, this is why you got to have your costs down, because there's going to be a learning curve. And there are people starting right out of the gate with almost nothing. And that's that's why a lot of people tell you need to have a certain amount of money in the bank to even begin this venture, because there's going to be a learn, whether your truck could run perfectly, everything at home's perfect, but you're going to have mistakes. You're going to have learning curves. You're going to learn that, oh, wow, maybe this wasn't a great idea to do this load. But at the same time, you can't let one load completely change your perspective of how you do things. Your whole business does not run off of one load. It's all about consistency that you do every day. And if you're consistently making mistakes, guess what? You're consistently, hopefully, learning from those mistakes. And then then after a while, you're good to go. You see your bank account get lower, and and you wipe off the blood on your hands, and then you get going. I mean, the the first year I was at Landstar, holy moly, I felt like a rookie again. And like, I just, it was very humbling, because I always said I could do better than my dispatcher. Well, guess what? I didn't. and that was a tough lesson, but I got through it. And so whether you believe in the whether you believe in my perspective and how I look at a low board or not doesn't matter. It really doesn't. This is how I look at these low boards. This is what I do in these situations. And despite the fact that I don't run 3,000 miles a week, doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing out here when I am out there. Doesn't mean that I can't dispatch, because I've learned so many things. I've been to all 48 states. I used to say I've never been to Nevada, but my sister corrected me. But as a truck driver, I've been to almost all 48. And I've been to Fife, Washington. I've been to LA. I've been to Laredo and Brownsville. I've been to Phoenix. I've been to Tucson. I used to live in Phoenix. I've been to North Dakota. I've been to Montana. I did an 8-stop load in Montana one time in summer. And man, that's on my old channel, by the way, that video. And then Snorelord OG. And then I've been to Maine. I used to pick up canoes out of Maine. We used to pick up canoes out of Maine, or we'd pick up plastic knives and forks and spoons that came out of Maine. That was a drop and hook customer. And I would take them to the caves in Kansas City. I used to run batteries from Pennsylvania to all points. I have not been to Miami, but Florida, I've been to Port St. Lucie. I've been to Orlando a bunch of times. I've been to Tampa a bunch of times, Ocala, Jacksonville. So, and I've literally thrown a rock and hit the Canadian border, up north. I used to live not too far from the Canadian border in upstate New York. So I know these markets. I know their struggles and I know their strengths. And then once you figure it out, it changes on you. And that's so I keep up on those things. I have the time to keep up on those things. Where my dispatch service does well is if you're just doing nothing but driving, I can create, I can look ahead for you. I can book ahead for you. And deal with the brokers, deal with the 20 calls that you're going to need to get out of Nowheresville, Utah, and come up with a strategy on coming out of there. And the number one thing that's important is your mindset. How do you handle that? Okay, I'm in Denver, now what? Okay, I'm in Miami, now what? I'm in Portland, Oregon, now what? What's your mindset going to tell you what to do? And it's all about mindset. That's the thing. And that's the important part. And if you have trouble finding that, that's where I'm here, man. That's I can help you. And you don't have to take my word as gospel. Absolutely don't. I'm just giving you a perspective out of the millions and zillions of YouTubers out there. I'm giving you my perspective of how I look at these low boards. I've learned a lot from Jeffrey Like. I've learned a lot from the Dean. I've learned a lot from Pigtail. I've learned a lot from an old friend. And I've learned a lot from SRO Logistics. My buddy Scott. I've learned a lot from Sanborn, the Sandman. And I appreciate every single person that's ever helped me. And I've done it on 3 different platforms: van, reefer, and flatbed. So I'm learning a lot. And it's every day is a challenge, but man, it's a good challenge. That's what I try to do. Carlos Cruz, the name of the game is save when everything is going good. That is absolutely true. And then also another plan when rates are really good is worst case scenario. You always got to do a worst case scenario. For example, even though I failed to come up with a business plan, I failed to treat my starting business as a business when I bought my first truck, I did at least do the worst case scenario. Wife and I were talking about it. I said, what's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is I take home as much as a company driver, but at least I've got some flexibility and freedom. Then my wife said, well, the worst that can happen is probably we have to foreclose on our house. I'm like, that's never, ever, ever going to happen. There is no way that my trucking career that I enjoy is ever going to take away the roof over the head of my family. And so that was essentially, so I came up with a plan to make sure I was never upside down in a truck, physically and figuratively, financially. And that if it looked like it was going to be too much, then I was out. before it affected. I mean, because I can literally go out and get a company job and be good because we kept our costs down, because we don't go out and buy the newest, latest, greatest Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses stuff. Now, would it be nice to be able to have a new pickup? Absolutely. But the stress of having that, it would probably make me a better business owner, but at the same time, there's no room for error. And there's a lot of errors that occur that aren't even within your control. One of them is your truck breaking down. One of them is I-80 being shut down for 3 days. One of them is the market that you can't control. As much as you can type on Facebook and go, stop taking cheap freight, you control nothing but yourself. You don't control traffic. You don't control road conditions. You don't control the shipper. You don't control the receiver. You don't control the customer. You don't control the broker. The only thing you control is yourself. And if you're out of control, then you're dead man walking. Morning Snorelord, it's coffee time for sure. Shadow Wolf, good to see you in here. Hope you're enjoying retirement. Hope you stayed out of the storms. Well, the load boards show a ratio of reefer to dry van amount of loads. Yeah, I mean, I can switch this to reefer, Marty. I could put both. Here's both. Okay. Then all you got to do is, take out van. So you can kind of do that on any load board. You just type in van reefer and then take away one, and there's your differences. If you want the reality of heavy haul in 2023, check out this video. Skip first 5 minutes. There you go. Mitch gets real. There you go. I had to learn that the hard way. I overextended myself. And look, it's learning the hard way is sometimes the only way, right? For most people. I had to learn most of the things I've learned the hard way. Huh. Wonder why there's no freight in Denver. That's weird. But it's like, I think that if I had to support my entire family, like my wife didn't work and we homeschooled our kids, I don't think I would have been an owner operator, because that's a tough position for any kind of business to be in. You got to have some supplemental streams of income. And that's what I've tried to do. I make a little bit of money off the 123 low board. I make a little bit of money off of YouTube. I have other business ventures that I'm looking into. And and I'm trying to find the sweet spot where the truck can still make some money. Right now it's just taking money. My cost per mile is through the roof, by the way, because I've had about $6,000 worth of repairs, and I haven't even moved to one load yet this year. Well, repairs and maintenance. There's maintenance in there too. But that's the struggle of having an 8-year-old truck. And that's why I don't get into the whole new truck versus old truck arguments, because it's dependent on the situation, dependent on your platform, dependent on your carrier, dependent on what your goals are, what your financial needs are. I wish I knew 1/4 of what I know now about the game of trucking when I started. I might have done things a lot different in my career of hauling freight. I think we all do that, right? So as a newbie, I'm thinking about getting a portable freezer for the truck so I can have healthier food available to cook. Is that a good idea or bad? Dude, that's the best idea you can have, and make sure it's a true portable freezer. I'm trying to remember the name of the brand that all the light guys were using. But yes, there's one that's a combination freezer and fridge, and it's not as expensive as the ones that are in the truck stop. But either way, it's a good investment. So, that's yes, that is a great idea, because the actual refrigerator slash freezers, those are better than your 12-volt coolers that you find at the truck stops, because the 12-volt cooler is dependent on ambient air temp. And so if your cab's 100 degrees, it's keeping everything at 70. That's food poison area, right? But if you get a true freezer, it's not drawing as much power. But instead of paying 120 something dollars for a cooler, you're paying $300 or $400 for the freezer / fridge. Now, a lot of companies are putting refrigerators in the trucks now. And so what I recommend, if they give you a refrigerator, there's a little tiny freezer. It's about yay big. It's not big at all. But what I do, and I still have that stuff, the refrigerator, which was generously donated by Big Rig CO, and I appreciate that, Big Rig. I would keep my food in there that was important, like there could be no critical error, and then the stuff like vegetables and stuff like that would go into the 12-volt cooler that I keep on the floor as well. And so, but yes, that's David Edwards, type in Snorelord cooking in the truck, and you're going to see a lot of my videos that I used to do about cooking in the truck. So, my question is, Steve, the screen that shows the inbound and outbound freight volumes, does it break it down by trailer type? No. You kind of have to do that yourself. New truck is better for comfort. Yes. Expense wise, it just depends. I know that truck prices are coming down, and you can utilize a warranty, but warranty doesn't cover downtime. So that's why if I had a new truck, I would want it to be a full maintenance lease. That's a reasonable payment. Cool trucking. Hey, Steve in chat. What's up? David, that's a great idea. You save money as well as expensive to eat out. The biggest problem I have about cooking in the truck is motivation in the cleaning. So that's a great point, Chucky. So one year Jeff handed us all for Christmas Hot Logic Minis. And so what I would literally do is it's a glass dish that goes in this like insulated case. You plug it in. You don't even need a big inverter to plug it in. I would put 2 frozen patties, beef patties, and some vegetables, and I would just set it and forget it. Another one is a crock pot. You can use the crock pot liners. Now I'm talking like the small one, not one of the big ass, 8-quart ones. And use the crock pot liner. Have rubber gloves to deal with the meat or whatever. Put it in there. Put the lid on it. Get those little tiny bungee cords to make sure the lid stays put. Plug it in. Forget it. And then you have your food. You use disposable dishes. And take the bag, toss it out. You're good to go. No cleanup, hardly at all. I use a small little tiny George Foreman grill. Pretty easy. I put foil on each side. And hardly any cleanup at all. So, Dometic, thank you. Cool truck and Dometic. Well, no, that's the more expensive one, I think. There's another one that the guys were using. I can't remember. My best inexpensive purchase for the truck was a Hot Logic Mini and some glass containers. I have hot food every day. And right, and you can also, if you're home like every weekend or every other weekend, you can prepare meals. And you can literally buy those containers that fit in the Hot Logic Mini and just pre-sort your meals. Now that's a lot of work. And then have a plan in place if you're not able to cook that day. But the truck stop food is a lot more expensive. It's more fast food oriented. And I would also encourage a low carb lifestyle. That way you don't gain that first 15, 20 pounds that people usually get out of CDL school. Snorelord, are you wanting to supplement your income with local runs? If so, I can text you what I've found. Just let me know. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have a chat. I've been meaning to talk to you anyway, see how things were going. So, but absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm 28, started trucking at 21 with OD switch to owner operator. 21, due to my wife being pregnant. She don't work. We have a house, etc. It's hard out here, but I'm finding a way, just praying and taking it week by week. Yeah, and I'm not saying it's impossible. Sam, man, he supports his whole family. Chucky supports his whole family. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is a lot of hard work. And just be careful not to burn yourself out. Don't miss out on your kids' events. When they get older and they're doing games, or they're doing like for example, my daughter's trying out for a choir thing on Saturday. You know, see an event like that, I'm going to see her graduate. I've seen all my kids graduate, which has been important. Um, but there's a lot of years that I can't get back that I wish I did. And in some ways, my kids, even as often as I was home, they felt like they did grow up with their father full time. And a majority of the problems that we're having in this country right now is because we're living in a fatherless society, broken families. And essentially what happens is the wife becomes, basically has to raise the kids like a single mom. And you come home, and David, if you got kids, if you come home, you're going to feel like a stranger in your own home, because the wife has made decisions, that she had to get things done. And that's that's one of the hardships that was hard for me. And to this day, it has scarred me a little bit. So, because I tried to do as much as I could to be better than my dad, who had to be out 3 months at a time because he owned his truck. So I wanted to make sure that I could at least get home enough that I don't miss everything. So there it is. All be cool. Yes, Rich S. Thank you very much. That's what it was. So yes, Amazon, $300. There you go. Does the 123 low board allow posting of empty trucks? Yes. Yep, it has posting. It has a post truck feature right here. Let me see what that looks like. Make sure it doesn't have all my info on there. I'm secretive. So you can, not that I'm hard to find, um, but yeah, you can, just like the DAT board, you can post your truck. It has real time truck posts, schedule truck posts, and then so you can schedule a truck post, expired truck post. I've never posted my truck on the 123, but yeah, there's that option. I did post my truck on DAT one time, and I specifically put in the posting not to call the carrier, to call me directly or email me directly. They don't listen. Jeff called me like, you got a truck posting? I'm like, yeah. Well, have you found the load? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, then take your posting off, because he was getting a bunch of phone calls. And now, if you have something offer, like let's say you're a team, I'd be posting all day long, because teams are being sought out still. A lot of these customers are trying to wait till the last minute, till it's almost impossible, and that tends to happen a lot in the West Coast. Seattle and Portland are nothing. A lot of teams come out of there, in California as well, because now they need a 4-day run done in 2 days, because they drag their feet on trying to book a lower rate. Or when the market was in our favor, they had trouble finding a truck. So there was a point, if you were a team, you can name your price. Dometic are expensive in the truck stops, but cheaper on Amazon, as is everything else. I bought the metal tins for the Hot Logic Mini, no clamp at all. There you go. A friend of mine gave me the long one, the big one. I don't have a glass dish for it, but I imagine they're pretty easy to find. But yeah, look up Hot Logic Mini, David. You don't need a you can buy one of those 12-volt plug-in inverters, and you're good to go. Just make sure that you're with a company that allows you to cook in the truck. I know that TMC, I think, don't allow you to cook in the truck because it could create a mess or create a fire or whatever. But and then there's nothing wrong with a pot or pan and one of them little butane burner stoves, as long as you open the windows, don't die. My wife is great and took on a part-time gig on top of homeschooling to get us through these slower times. That's you got a good woman there. And you know, and I know that you're treating her right? Pale Rider, what's up, man? Good morning. Pale Rider, will you be live tonight? And I gave the person we were talking about your number. Or wait, no, I gave you their number. So, but yes, that person agreed to it. I don't know if it'll be tonight, but But anyways, let's look at a couple of markets, shall we? And this is why you got to be kind of careful where you're going and have a strategy to come out of where you're going. So let's do find loads. Now, the app on the phone looks a little different. You don't have the hot market map, but you still have the load availability list. Like this is density list. So, and it tells you the color. Like let's take a look at California here. Here we go. City of Industry, California, going to Michigan. They're at $1.53 a mile. Van load, 44,000. Bottled canned beverage, non-alcoholic. You got to worry about freeze protect this time of year for that. They're at 34. The average is 36. That's Loadsmith. I've dealt with them. Once you get on their system, then they have a low board that you can look at as well. And that area of Michigan's not too bad, but again, you gotta pay attention to freeze protect. Let's see, what's another one we can do it. Here's Ontario to Washington. This is the I-5 corridor. This could be a good corridor to run up and down if you live out here. But your fuel's going to be higher. You're going to deal with more mountains and more weather. Refrigerated food, 39,000 and change on pounds, and then 2,800. They're above the average, 244 a mile. So you can get above $2 a mile if you're running reefer freight, up and down I-5 there. And so let's look at a return load. So here's there's two loads going right back to Cali. See what the average is on that. They're not posting the rates, but let's look at this one. Gresham, Oregon, going down to Miraloma. Frozen fruit. Average is 208 a mile. So we're still north of $2 a mile. Whereas if you try to get a reefer load out of Phoenix, you're not getting $2 for the most part. You can try, but it's got to have something going on with it to do that, like go to a different area or whatever. So let's look at Arizona. Here we go. Goodyear to Spring Lake. $1.79 is the average. This is a van or reefer. 40,000. Looks like they got several of those. Here's Phoenix to Portland. A little bit better rate, I think. Let me look here. Yep, 223 for van or reefer. So that's the average. So, that FreightWaves talks about that all the time. Donnie over there doing the carrier updates, he talks about running up and down this corridor up here. But again, you got to worry about weather in the mountains there. Here's Tolleson to Denver. That's going to be one of your better paying loads coming out of that area. 221 a mile, reefer, 26,000 pounds. It's hummus for all you vegan hippies. Um, but yet, look at Gilbert, Arizona, Kansas City. It's a van load, only paying averages dollar. Well, no, they don't have an average here. Actually, they do $1.88. Right now, they're sitting at 1,500, and the average is 22.80. But Kansas City gets you in a better area. So, but it's 44,000 pounds. It's paper, so it's going to be heavy. You know, it's going to be heavy. Unless it's finished product like toilet paper or tissues or something like that. So you're going to burn more fuel on that one. And then here's another one: Sholo, Arizona to Los Lunas, New Mexico. New Mexico is definitely not a good market. It's only paying $450 for 256 miles. That's a flatbed or step deck, 47,000 pounds. So that's to me that's not. I would not book that. Let's look at what Los Lunas going back to Arizona is. Or no, that's just anywhere. There's only 4 loads coming out of the area. So you're looking at Albuquerque to Layton, Utah, Albuquerque to Dewey, Rio Rancho to Crawfordville, Florida, for only $1.13 a mile for flatbed step deck. So, yep. So you can lots of cool tools here, man. Meanwhile, let's look at Arkansas here. Good old Arkansas, the natural state. Here we go. That's a decent little load. North Little Rock to Boonville, Indiana. Paying $2.76 a mile. The average is 3.14, but still, if you're above 2 on any market right now, it's reefer, palletized frozen food, so you're going to burn more diesel on the reefer there. Depending on how old your trailer is, how old the reefer unit is. But that's still a better rate than what it could be, I guess. So David, it's in the description of the video. So click on the description of the video, and that's my email. So, give us a crystal ball. What's going on in the middle of the year? I don't have that. Sorry, Marty. They're predicting, Freightways is predicting rates coming down at the end of March. And I think the saving grace will be fuel will stay steady. But as far as like middle of the year, I know there's a lot of things going on politically, and it could be a worldwide event that could kind of throw all that out the window. No one saw the vid coming. I mean, some movies predicted it, some government documents predicted it, but you know, and whatever it is that happens this summer is going to be temporary. And so, unforeseen circumstances. It just depends what the economy is doing and what consumer confidence is doing. People are still spending. But there's a lot of repossessions going on in the car world. Default loans are sky high, and once that catches up, that's going to be a bad day for everybody. So prepare for the worst and hope for the best, Marty. That's about all I can say. Whoever books that load of hummus, do us a favor and take it to Waste Management. Can you remind? Okay, I already addressed that. Crystal ball out for calibration, right? Pretty much. I mean, let's do this here. Let's look at DAT trend lines. And you don't need a DAT board subscription to see this. Okay. So let's bring the screen up here. The reality is there's still too many trucks. So all these people that didn't do a business plan, all these people that overextended themselves, all these people that are not willing to go where they need to go to make money, those people are eventually going to take themselves out. How fast that happens is dependent on the market. I imagine if fuel jumps $1 a gallon right now, a lot of you would be out. That's the reality. I would probably be out. All right, so as you can see, there's a steady decline, but let's find some other graphs here. No, that's not what I want. Give me a second here. Yeah, I'm having trouble finding that graph. But a lot of this stuff, I mean, you got to understand that like there's a bunch of shorties that are making $4 a mile, but low revenue per day, and then there's a bunch of long ones that are lower than this, but it's a higher revenue per day. So so you got to take these numbers with a grain of salt. There's your steady decline on spot rates. Then your contract rates are starting to come down as well. There's your differences in van and spot. So, but you just have to. I mean, all the I mean, there's a lot of graphs. Let me try something here. Might have deleted that email. There we go. Market update. There we go. That does it. All right. So this is off of Sonar. Okay. This is why you can't have a crystal ball, but you can recognize patterns. This is contract load accepted volume. Notice how it's up and down every year. Every color is a year, right? Now, this one is telling total count of tractors from fleets authorized for hire. Look at that. That's why you're fighting for your rates right now. These trucks have to go away. This is when we were making the big bucks right here. use all the tools at your disposal. If you look at this reefer market conditions, the red is good, blue is bad. And you can see that everything's in pockets. You know, there's flatbed, southeast as usual. This area southeast has cooled down quite a bit, but you can still get good rates from Alabama to Texas to Oklahoma. And then also you got your pockets. So I've got a buddy of mine that pretty much goes back and forth between these two markets till it's time to go home. And then van, that's actually good news. This was more blue, so that's good. So there's pockets that are picking up of red. So let's see if I can zoom in on this. So as you can see, LA is cooled down on the van, but Phoenix is kind of warmed up a little bit. But I still struggle to get out of those places when I'm forced to go in. So, and look at Wisconsin. Everybody's cooled down Wisconsin. So now the Midwest is doing what it usually does. And Kansas has warmed up a little bit. But, so there is no crystal ball, Marty, and I apologize. So if you're a manufacturer, it might be good to set up shop in New Mexico because outbound freight rates are so low. Yeah, that's part of the equation. I have the solution to rid brokers. 10 to 15 owner operators join up like a coop. Either choose one owner operator as a sales rep or pitch in to hire a sales rep dispatcher, allow sales 4 to 6 months to secure. I believe there's a service like that already out there, CDN. I forget what it's called. That does exist. Fran, Maria, what's up? Accounts and boom, brokers be gone. If every 10 to 15 owner operators do this, by Labor Day, load boards would have only a few loads. Most brokers closed. Owner operators all do it in-house, easy peasy. That's what a lot of the bigger companies already do. So, would you entertain a turnkey truck management service for an owner operator who just wants to drive? I'm not sure what you mean. Like having a company driver, you own the truck and manage the truck. Isn't that what James Best was doing with Oser? Well, actually, no. Oser was booking his own freight. So, I mean that's what the big companies already do. They just, as far as like me personally managing that, I don't know if I would do that. You've got fleet managers that literally just tell the driver what his next load is and deal with issues. But the best turnkey operation is to hire owner operators on your authority that find and book their own freight and have all their own equipment. That's pretty much what that is. If outbound rates are low, then inbound is high. Manufacturing cost equals out. Yeah, and you have to understand that if you're a factory, you need stuff coming in as well. So I mean, it's just I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about that area, um, because you don't know what the state laws are, what the state taxes are, what the environmental laws. Like to have a factory in California is going to be more expensive than say having a factory in, I don't know, Nebraska. It's just there's there's a reason why these factories go over to Mexico. I just saw that Tesla was trying to build something in Mexico. It's like, yeah, way to support America there. So just know that there's a lot more to it than just shipping rates. But your inbound has to come in as well. So living by a port city might be helpful. I don't know, but again, I'm not going to pretend to know that answer, I guess. So, anyways, guys, by the way, like trucking, we have several trailers. So if you're looking to sign on with a company, that's pretty easy to deal with. We are hiring owner operators. We don't have any company trucks. So make sure you check out liketrucking.com and 48065 gets you 30 days for free on the 123 low board. That's my code. Use it. Gives you 30 days free to try it out, and then it's $35 for all the tools, which is normally $45. So indefinitely. So make sure you check it out. One of the great things about 123 low board is if you're a broker, it's free to post a load. And number two, you don't need an MC number to get on the low board and do what you need to do. So if you're looking to have a business plan and you want to see what rates are doing, you want to look at posted rates, you want to come up with scenarios like fuel mileage and all that, you can download the 123 low board app or access to it online, use my code, and you can check that out without needing an MC number. If you want to use DAT or truck stop, you got to have an MC number to access those in those tools, and a lot more money actually. So if you're trying to come up with a business plan because for some odd weird reason you want to be an owner operator, it's a joke. Then it's a great way to get your feet wet and look around and see, and do virtual loads to see what that would look like. Also, thanks for supporting the channel, everybody. I appreciate it. And sorry I was not as prominent this week as I have been in the past, but sometimes there are things going on at home. I got to tend to customers. I got to tend to the family. And sometimes I'm just tired of hearing myself talk. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody that's in here. I appreciate all my subscribers, old and new, and I appreciate the memberships. Click the join button, and there's 4 levels of memberships if you want to check it out. I try to do exclusive content. Every now and then we'll do a Saturday night feed where I play guitar or the drums or just talk about anything but trucking because, sometimes it's nice to get out of the headspace for a minute. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and my contact info is down below if you need to get a hold of me, and we'll talk to you later. Peace. Have a great weekend.